eerie silver-blue glow, Wilt's latest passion was painting on black velvet, rested on an easel near the kitchen door. When the lawyer showed up at the door asking for her, Wilt took cover in the kitchen. Now she heard the sound of ice hitting the bottom of a glass and the freezer door close. She knew that her roommate was close enough to hear every word. Litton spoke again.
"My clients are certainly in a position to raise the boy the way Richard Saunders would have wanted him raised."
"Rick wanted to marry me. He wanted to raise Christopher with me."
"But Richard is dead, isn't he? He's not here to say what he did or didn't want."
"I'm Chris's mother. They can't have him, and they can't take him away from me."
"A private investigative firm has started a background search on you."
Without even looking at documents, he began listing all the things they'd dug up, reciting them like a litany.
"You were born in Albuquerque, a drug baby whose mother walked out and left you at the hospital. You were raised in a series of foster homes. Social Services listed you as a problem child with tendencies to disrupt the environment in every situation in which you were placed. You were charged with shoplifting when you were 14 and ran away from the last home you were in at 17. 6 months later, you applied for a California driver's license. You have been openly living with Mr. Walton, a 64-year-old retiree, for 4 years.
"We're just roommates."
My clients can make this extremely hard on you. The Saunders are very wealthy people with a lot of influence in Southern California. You haven't enough money or connections to fight them."
He leaned forward, as if he had no stake in the outcome of her decision, as if he were speaking from the heart.
"If you're smart, you'll take the money."
"But surely they can't just buy my baby." Mr. Litton's hand closed around the handle of his briefcase. He paused, then sighed heavily. He stood, looked directly into her eyes.
"Take the money, and we'll draw up a contract. They will legally adopt the boy. You'll be a very wealthy young woman with your whole life ahead of you."
Anger quickly replaced her initial shock. She shook her head, knowing in her heart that this wasn't right. None of it was what Rick would have wanted for her or for Christopher. She and Rick Saunders had spent only a month together, but they'd been lovers right from the start. He'd blown into town like a desert dust devil, riding around in a hot new Porsche, buying up land he planned to develop as soon as he returned from a year in Japan, working for his father's shipping company. He'd never made her any promises. She'd expected none and never asked for any. It was enough to be with him, to bask in the warmth of a smile that burned bright as a comet in the midnight desert sky. At the end of the month, Rick left for Japan as planned. She hadn't heard from him again until 3 weeks ago, when he had shown up on the doorstep. That was the day she'd told him that she had given birth to his son. Once he had laid eyes on Christopher, he shocked her by immediately proposing. Deep in her heart, she knew it wasn't out of love, but that Rick wanted to be with his son. He told her that he wanted them to be a family, and she accepted his proposal, hoping that his love for their son was enough to build a marriage on. A few days later, Rick drove to Long Beach to break the news about her and Christopher and their plans to his parents. She had been packed and waiting the day Rick was on his way back to Borrego to pick them up and take them home. But he never made it. The Porsche went off the road, and Rick died at the bottom of a ravine amid a twisted tangle of metal and sandstone boulders. 3 days later, while she mourned not only Rick but the end of a dream, the Saunders finally returned her calls, told her they would be holding a private memorial, but that she was not invited. She tried to understand, to make excuses for them. The Saunders didn't know her. They were grieving. Perhaps they blamed her for Rick's death. If he hadn't been on his way to get her. "Rick wanted to marry me." She spoke softly, more to reassure herself than anything else. "Just because he's gone, that doesn't mean I don't want his son. I gave birth to Christopher because I wanted him. I intended to raise him by myself before Rick found out our baby even existed. Once he saw Christopher, he wanted us to be a family."
I'm afraid we only have your word on that.
Lytton pointedly gazed around the room again.
Do you honestly think he would want his son raised like this?
He leveled his cool, emotionless gaze on her.
Perhaps the amount the Saunders are offering isn't enough. If that's the case, I'm sure they'll up the ante.
Christopher stirred. Carolyn patted his bottom, juggled him against her shoulder. Fear had crept in to close around her heart, enough fear to give her a burst of courage. She stood and continued to stare up at the lawyer. "Get out, Mr. Lytton."
If you're smart, you'll reconsider.
"Get out."
You'll be hearing from my clients again. They don't take refusal lightly.
As soon as the door closed on Lytton, she sat down again, too drained to move. She heard the slap of Wilt's bare feet on the kitchen linoleum before the sound was silenced when he stepped onto the balding shag carpet. His heavy hand, reassuring, solid, soon came to rest on her shoulder.
God damn it to hell.
Wilt always had a way of summing things up in as few words as possible. She couldn't make her mind work. Christopher was fussing, kicking his sturdy legs, tugging at the front of her T-shirt. "What am I going to do, Wilt?"
Hell if I know, but whatever you decide, I'm with you.
He cleared the back of the couch, walked around, and sat in the lima bean green velour chair that Lytton had just vacated. A glass of ice water in his hand dripped condensation, forming a moist stain on the arm of the chair. His plaid flannel shirt was rumpled, slept in. His baggy navy blue sweatpants oozed over the sides of his sun-tanned bare feet. More gray than blonde, a heavy walrus mustache hid his upper lip. Wilt had been her rock, her savior when he picked her up on the side of Highway 40 in Arizona 4 years ago. She'd been walking alone, hitching, dazed and confused and too out of it to care what happened to her, when he pulled his rig over and offered her a ride. After miles and hours together, he'd opened his home to her, offered to keep her off the streets. Over the past 4 years, Wilt had become the grandfather she never knew. One day while he was painting, he gave her a blank canvas, a few hints on blending color, and filled a palette with paint for her. He had seen some doodles she'd done on scratch paper and encouraged her to sketch landscapes, recognizing what he called raw talent. Slowly, with his guidance, she learned to paint. She came to trust him with her life, and would trust him with Chris's, too. But that afternoon, sitting there amid the dust and the oddly comforting chaos, she had a feeling that even Wilt couldn't help her now. She waited until late afternoon when he drove down to the fruit stand for grapefruit. She dressed Christopher, packed his diaper bag. Wilt kept his emergency money in an old Folgers coffee can in plain sight on a shelf in the kitchen cupboard. He'd shown it to her when she moved in, told her that he was being up front with her and expected the same, even if she was just a kid. He also added that if she ever needed the money for a real emergency, she was welcome to it. As she took the can down off the shelf and pulled off the plastic lid, she figured there probably would never be a bigger emergency in her life, and that Wilt would agree. There was a sizable wad of bills inside the can. She didn't stop to count them, just divided them in 2 and shoved the rolls deep into the pockets of her jeans. She grabbed an envelope from some junk mail lying on the cabinet by the phone, found a pencil. "Dear Wilt, there's nothing I can ever say or do to thank you for what you've done for me. You've treated me better than anyone has in a long time, so it hurts me to repay your kindness by taking your savings stash. But I've thought, and I can't seem to figure out anything else to do but go where the Saunders can't find us. It'll be easier on you if I don't tell you where I'm going. I'm not real sure where I'll end up, but I can only hope it will be someplace 1/10 as good as what I've had here with you. Take care of yourself and keep painting. If there ever comes a time in my life when I can pick up a brush to paint again, I'll think of you. I wish I didn't have to go. Love, C." She set the note beneath the empty coffee can in the middle of the table, where he would see it first thing when he walked in.